All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Bourbon Banter Evans. Justin, what's the point?
What is the point? By the way, what is this stuff in front of us? Is that bourbon? And so this is going to be Bourbon Banter Evans presents Bourbon. What is the point?
Yep.
And it's going to have multiple parts that exist within the same video that we might have to include points and go back to.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, let's talk real quick about these nice Calumet Farms or Calumet bourbons on the table.
Yeah.
And let's not forget our control as well. We just did a quick video. Now we're doing the second video of the day. And before we talk about these bourbons, let me mention I am wearing a hat for the second video ever.
Yes.
It is still signed. I'm wearing orange and white for Tennessee doing well in baseball.
They're doing real well.
Same bourbon socks.
Yep.
So now that we have that out of the way, bourbon, what's the point? Calumet Farms sitting here at 14 years old and 16 years old. And of course, this is a small batch, essentially, of the 15 and 8 year.
Yep.
That being said, these are on the table for less than $150.
Exactly. And look at the age statements, 14 and 16.
So a lot of people are now discussing we can't find the age statements that we're looking for because the bourbon boom is so big that they're not able to age it as much. Well, somebody's doing a good job of doing this. So what's the point? The point being that we're talking about
is, well, I mean, we're sitting here. What is the point of, okay, you've got these. What's the point of now offering a 25 year at $75 or $10,000? And if you know what we're talking about, it's the new Eagle Rare that they've put out there. I think it's 25 years, and I'm pretty sure that is it, and it's going to be 10 grand.
And we don't even technically know what the price is yet because we haven't seen it in our market. Of course, we're talking about Evans for sure. But what we do know is the suggested MSRP for the new Weller Millennial is $7,500.
And what's the age statement on that one?
There technically isn't one, but if you go back to the youngest barrel that they used involved to make this whiskey, which has got wheat whiskey in there that I didn't even know they were producing, some other things, the small details, and it was like, what, 2006?
Yeah.
And so, well, it's 20s, I guess, or teens, depending on how you break it down.
But still, it's going to be probably older than this.
Barely.
But not by much. So what's the point?
What's the point of having a $7,500 bourbon, and who are you marketing that to?
Right. And so we kind of discussed this a little bit, and we've seen that, okay, most likely it's going to go into a bar, right? A bourbon bar or something of that nature. But then what are they going to charge for a pour of that? And just like we're talking, it's probably only going to be a minuscule 1 ounce pour. And then you're probably going to pay anywhere between $500, $600 or more.
If you're lucky.
Right.
If you're lucky.
For a 1 ounce pour.
1 ounce. And that's 100% markup, and more than likely because the prestige will be more than that.
Right.
So again, what's the point is, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
We thought
yes.
bourbon was here to consume, enjoy, socialize, discuss, have fun with, share, drink.
Enjoy.
Anything except for looking at.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong with looking at it. I look at a lot of fancy cars too, and I'm thinking, all right, we've talked about this before. If you can collect it, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
So again, there's nothing wrong with doing this, but what's the point? Because as a consumer, I probably could never buy a Lamborghini.
You're right, and then so also what we're talking about, your average consumer is not going to be able to afford a $7,500 bottle of bourbon.
Yeah.
And I could say that in multiple different ways. Might not be able to afford. Is it even reasonable, worth doing it, or anything else like that? So for me, kind of like, I don't know if you think the same thing. This is just a collector's item, a Lamborghini.
A Lamborghini, yeah. And so the Lamborghini isn't where bourbon really started in the historical parts of this. I mean, historically, bourbon was inexpensive, and it was very, very available. And then it was so available that nobody wanted it when vodka took over. And now it's very sought after again. So again, maybe they're just striking while the iron's hot.
Yeah.
Are they taking advantage of the situation? Are they saying we have an opportunity to make more than we've ever made?
Right.
Let's just see how far we can push this envelope. But again, back in the day, you couldn't beg somebody to buy a bottle of bourbon for $12 because it was $1.2.
Right.
But if it was $7.99, you were selling it. And so now that consumer didn't exist when bourbon was coming up and about and coming up through the ages of this is what we are. We've been around for a long time. America's native spirit, and by America we mean USA.
Right.
So I just find it hard to believe that. The other thing that we were going to talk about is $5 Hondo good. So $500, $500.
Yes.
So you're starting to see regular things come out with hundreds of dollars, but we're talking about the Lamborghinis here. So hundreds of dollars would be like your a different import car.
Yeah, whatever. But I mean, You look at this, hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
But it's an age stated 15. Yeah, I'm sorry, 14 and a 16. I mean, that's what we have, and it's $150. Now you're going to get
and it's available.
Yes, readily available in our market.
And I'm not saying that you do or don't like it. We like it just fine.
Yes.
We're not doing a review about it. We're just using it as an example for this video of what's the point. Now, what was the point of them having a 14 and a 16-year at an affordable price when that other 14, 15, 16-year-olds come out at a non-affordable $1,000 price tag?
Right. And then
uncut, unfiltered with the front door alarm.
Yeah, exactly. But no, and hit that like and subscribe button. But this is one that I think this is we're gonna talk about this point right now, and I think this is gonna lead into more videos because I think from the comments, and hopefully please give us your comments on this. Who are they marketing this to now? Are they doing like you were talking about? Are they striking while the iron's hot? Because hey, look, we need to get out there. We're building rick houses out the wazoo and everything else like that. We need to be able to offset some costs. I don't know. Is that what's going on?
I can't figure out what is the point of having this. If you're going to switch bourbon marketing over to people that are regularly going to spend $7,500, is that where we're going? What's the point of that? Why would you do that? Why would you lose all your faithful, loyal drinkers? But what's the point of having that?
Right.
Why $7,500?
Well,
we know that barrels aging create tax, and tax is what's paid for to create cost, so therefore it costs more. I'm pretty sure you put a crystal decanter, you could still sell that for $1,000 and make money.
I mean, that's kind of like when we saw the Double Eagle Rare come out. I mean, we're sitting there going, "Holy cow!" That the price of that is pretty steep and everything else like that. And then, okay, now, hey, that one's doing fairly well. Let's throw a new one that's going to be 25 years. And
out
then,
of the experimental warehouse, though.
Yeah, and then so, where is the limit? Is there going to be a limit? Who are they marketing these to? And are we just going to keep buying?
And do we sound bitter?
Yeah. I mean,
Do we sound bitter? We could. So comment. Again, what's in your glass? Cheers. Thank you guys for joining in. And are you bitter?
Right.
We sound bitter maybe a little bit to me, but at the same time, we're just trying to bring up a point. We're trying to figure out what's the point right now. What are they going after? Yep. Who are they marketing towards? And we thought, again, in our early days, that bourbon was fun.
Yeah.
It was exciting. Now, this is exciting. Don't get me wrong.
It is.
But it's expensive. And it was attainable before.
Right.
At a lower price, and you could enjoy it and drink it and be like, wow, guess what I got to try?
Yep.
But at $7,500, or let's just reel that back, at $500 plus.
Right.
Are you still excited?
Is it $500 good?
Is it $500 good? I mean, are you excited to open $500? Now I get it. Other whiskeys, Scotch and things like that.
Yeah.
Irish whiskeys are getting really super aged, and they're really expensive. They've always been that way. But they've kind of always been that way. Mm-hmm. Bourbon wasn't. Mm-mm. Do you think bourbon... Like I said, what's the point? Do you think bourbon is going after to be the next leader of whiskey across the globe of high end? Look at what we're able to produce. It's just as good, if not better, than those other countries. Which I either agree or disagree with that, because I love Scotch.
I do too. I mean, I'm not a big Scotch.
But I love bourbon.
Irish.
So it's kind of like Irish. I just like whiskey. There's nothing wrong with that. So that being said, is it going to be the new king of the planet?
And I think maybe we are going on the right direction with that, Justin. I think. Are they trying to say, hey, look, Scotch has always been the highfalutin, the high name. Everybody drinks Scotch. Anybody that drinks Scotch, nobility and everything else like that. Are they trying to get up into that?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious. Are they trying to get into that category?
Yep.
But at the same time,
I think that's a good point.
Scotch also has very low.
They do.
Very low produced 3-year plastic bottle, if you want to call it that, price points, just like bourbon has always had.
Yeah.
Now, let's base this off of cognac for a little while.
Okay.
Cognac has some really expensive cognacs as well.
Right.
And that used to be for the upper echelon, upper tier class, if you want to call it that, so on and so forth, consumer, which is now changed for now it's available in all price categories.
Right.
So maybe bourbon is just slower at producing this. What's the point? Are they now trying to get there?
Right.
And now, wait, we can do all price points. We can have that super mega 40-year Scotch that's $40,000. Are we going to have a bourbon like that? And then in the middle, we got the $500. And then at the consumer, we got the $50. Is that the point? Is that what they're doing?
I mean,
I don't know. So we're asking bourbon, what is the point?
Yeah, what is the point? And I think really, are we going to hit? Could bourbon potentially get to a $40,000 bottle?
And not only if it gets there, is it going to be available? Because those scotches are available at that price point. You can literally go to Scotland or duty free or to certain bigger stores across the country and regularly find, just to name a few brands, Macallan's and Dalmore's, really super aged, 30 plus years old, and they hold as I like to call it, a Honda Accord price tag.
Yeah.
And so is bourbon, U.S. native spirit, trying to get to that point where we have those available at that price point? Again, who is Scotch marketing towards? That's not the point of this video.
Right.
But is bourbon going to be there? Is that the point of what they're trying to do? We don't know, but it's starting to look like we need to start asking questions.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like that might be the avenue, but that's our opinions. We'd love to hear your opinions on are you seeing the same thing we're seeing? You see something totally different? Let us know, because we'd love to explore a different avenue too.
Yeah. And just for the record, back to the Calumet, the 14 is still fantastic.
It
now,
is.
I've gone live before, and you guys have joined in. Thank you for that on Facebook with Sam when the 16 first rolled out. We did a live side by side with the 14 versus the 16, and so we gave the edge to the 16 that day on Fresh Cracks from the original 14 that I had. But this 14 is still really good.
Oh, it's good.
But the 16 has just a little bit more proof, and it just has a little bit more flavor. But this 14 is still very good. Again, not that everybody is after it or seeking it or looking for it. And I think the 14 is discontinued for now.
Right.
But why is it this one isn't sought after and this one isn't sought after, but it's on the shelf regularly in our market, but people aren't going insane prices with these levels? What dictates quality? What's the point of having these at this age statement and this price point if it's not going to reach that next $500 price?
And I think we had a good conversation about this also. They are able to do the year statements on these, so they have the juice to be able to age juice to be able to do this. And so you look at IW Harper 15. That was another one that I wanted to throw out there. That's within about the $90 range in our market, and it's a 15-year age stated bourbon.
Yep.
And they're able to put that out there regularly also in our market.
Yeah. So that means somebody's got age stock.
Yes.
And is this the beginning? Again, what's the point? Is the point going to be the new beginning of age statements that we're going to see are going to start to climb that ladder of price point?
Right.
Is it going to get way up there? Or is it just going to get somewhere? I feel like, to me, this is not way up there, but with the way inflation is working in the current market, not just bourbon, I'm talking about everything.
Yeah.
Everything is slightly rising.
Yep.
So when I see this, I'm like, ooh, cool, a 16-year, which is over here.
Right.
I'm like, oh, these are all, like I said, everything on this table is $150 or less.
Right.
That's great. Is that going to be everything else? Or is eventually, years from now, a 16-year going to be $300 or less?
Yep.
And are we going to see a really high age, maybe a 21 or 25 Calumet that is going to be that $1,000 price tag?
Right.
And what's the point of having that other than exclusivity and trying to stop it from being sold, because the average consumer doesn't typically spend that on something they're going to consume?
Right.
Not to say that there's beyond the average.
Right.
There's always that. There's
There
always
is.
the anomaly, and there's always the exception to the rule. But typically, historically, bourbon has been a lesser expensive drink, enjoyed, shared with company, things like that, and very good conversations and memories. But it's only going to be that one person in that group that probably spends that kind of money and shares it. So let's be honest. There's going to be one person in probably the sphere of influence that says, hey, look, I've got this $7,500 bottle of bourbon, and I got it for that instead of whatever the secondary dictates, whenever that happens.
15 grand.
Let's
probably.
open this up and figure out what price cost $300 an ounce is, which, if you're lucky, $600 a bar, which you were talking about earlier.
Right.
Like, that's going to be lucky to get it at that price.
Yeah. I think it's exactly what we say. What is the point? Where are they wanting to go with this?
Yeah. And at one point, my point was to try each, like, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. I wanted to try bourbon from each one.
Yeah.
And so I've made it to the 30s so far. So the point for me is to try from the Prohibition era to today.
Yeah.
And so far, I've got the 20s to go. That's an expensive pour.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I haven't reached it yet. And there's a couple of people that have the libraries that you can go and do that. So the point for me was to say that I've tried each decade.
Yeah. And you know what? But still, when you're looking at that, you try something from the 20s, you're not going to be spending $600 a pour, most likely.
Depending on
what it is, right? I mean,
but there's definitely findable ones for that. But you're sitting there thinking like, wow, somebody was able to store this for 100 years.
Yeah.
I can see that one being expensive, but we just produced this in 2024,
and it's aged, just say 20 years, 24 years, whatever it is.
Technology is much better now. I'll give it that. But sometimes craftsmanship from back in the day of creating stuff was better.
Correct.
So who's to say those are comparable? Like 1920s bourbon versus today's bourbon.
Well, I mean, and what you can say there too is you can say pre-fire Heaven Hill to regular
To
Heaven
regular
Hill.
Heaven Hill. There's a reason that people are seeking the other ones.
Yes. And
so
yeah.
Again, cheers. What's in you guys' glass? This one could have multiple parts of this. Thank you, Daniel, again for your hospitality and the invite over to your bourbon room. Again, let me shout out to this table one more time. The driftwood table is spectacular.
It is. It's fun. It's a great location. Daniel, really appreciate it. And honestly, let us know what you think the point is. And we are going to do. I have a feeling we have more to go on this.
There are more points. This main point that we were featuring on this bourbon, what's the point, is the price point.
Yeah.
And where they're going with it and who they're marketing to. Bourbon, what's the point, has a long list of things that you can talk about.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? You take this to friends, you keep it to yourself.
Right.
Is it for consumption only? Is it for looking at?
Or is it? I think that's where the next one goes. Is it for consumption, or is it now a collector's edition?
Yeah.
Is it your Lamborghini that you put in the garage and you've had it for 10 years and it has 150 miles on it?
It could be to the point now, again, what's the point? It could be the point now where it's more important to just say, I was able to acquire it. I'm not going to do anything with it.
Right.
But I just acquired it.
But now it's a status thing.
Yeah. I mean, you could look at paintings that way.
Very true.
You could say, look, I was able to acquire this painting. Am I a painter or am I a huge art collector? No, but I have this one Thomas Kincaid painting that I'm really excited about.
And it could go just like try to find our other video about collecting. It's out there. It's a great video. Watch that. I think we're gonna have some similarities between that video and when we dive back into
these are kind of related.
Yes.
And so you'll see that when we start continuing on these points that they're going to be kind of like a flow and going back and forth with them what they're doing. But again, bourbon. What's the point?
Yeah. Cheers. Like and subscribe.